So welcome back to another episode of Multifamily AP 360. And today's our guest is Kim Daly. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you so much, Ram. It's a pleasure to be here.
Sure, likewise. And a little bit about Kim. Kim built the largest franchise consulting business, powered by a millionaire mindset and a mission to help others create the life they have always dreamed of. For over 20 years, Kim Daly has inspired thousands to achieve financial freedom through franchising. As a top franchise consultant, host of KimDaly.tv, host of the Create Wealth Through Franchising podcast, and founder of the G Suite, Kim is here to debunk the myths of franchising. It's not just fast food and storefronts, and show how anyone can become a wildly successful franchise entrepreneur without prior business experience. So, with that, Kim, you want to add anything to your background?
I think you did a good job there. You touched on a lot of different things. Let's dive in.
Sure. How did you get into this business, Kim?
Yeah, it's a great question. So in franchising, Rama, we always ask each other, how did franchising find you? Because it's not like anybody wakes up and goes, oh, yeah, my dream is to own a franchise, right? Not too many people say that. But you find yourself at some fork in the road, right? You get laid off through no fault of your own, or you're like looking for more passion, more control. You want to stop being a road warrior for corporate America, waking up, building somebody else's dream. Like those are all the like common forks in the road when people come to me and go, I'm thinking about trying something different. I don't know much about franchising. Let's start a conversation. So my journey is a little bit different. I actually answered a classified ad, gives away my age, in the newspaper for a telemarketing job that happened to be for a franchise company. So I was on my way to medical school. I took this part-time summer job and they offered me a full-time job. Of course, my dad was like, "Don't do it. You'll never go to med school." I was like, "Oh, dad, of course I'm going to go to med school." He's right and he's always been right. And I'm happy to say my dad's always been right. But the reason I didn't go was because I found this industry of people helping people. Every single day, people are waking up, living their dreams. It's very passionate, and an entrepreneur was born in me. So I worked for that company for 3 years, and then I said, okay, I want to start my own company. So here I was in franchising where there were systems and tools and technology and safety and people to coach and mentor you. And I'm like, nope, I'm going to go be Miss Independent. So I broke off as the dot-com bubble started to build. And I built my first website, BeHealthyNow.com, and I was really successful. I got partnered with USAToday.com. A very successful entrepreneurial business. But Rama, it was not speaking to my soul. It became more about chasing money to really build the business than it was about impacting people and helping people. So when 9/11 happened, I was living in South Florida. And I really decided I want to go back to New Hampshire, where my dad is, where my family is. But what the heck am I going to do from Southern New Hampshire? So I turned back to franchising and I started asking questions of some of my friends. And they were like, oh, there's this new thing called franchise consulting. Maybe you'd like that. Who knew? So this was February 14th of 2002. I went to training to be a franchise consultant, and here we are at the end of 2025, an amazing, legendary 23-year trajectory with FranChoice and being a franchise consultant. Franchising has completely changed my life, and I would never go back to entrepreneur again. I want to be franchisepreneur all day long, every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. So, what exactly impacting people means? So, would you elaborate how exactly you want to impact people?
So, what I love most about what I do is the direct one to one relationship. I'm a consultant. So, people come to me at some phase in their life where they're looking for answers. They're looking to build wealth. They're looking to get control. They're looking for more passion. How do we plan for college and retirement? How do we break free from this healthcare or telecommunications, these industries that are cyclical, and we are always worried about job security? There's no job security when you work for somebody else. But when you work for yourself and you can leverage the platform of a proven franchise system where there's training and systems and technology and tools, then you can buy down the learning curve. So the average person without an MBA and without $1 million can very confidently leave their life in corporate America and step into business ownership through franchising and go on and build and secure their own financial future, right? By building and scaling franchise businesses. So that's what I've done. I've just been lucky enough to be in the middle of that as a matchmaker for 23 years. I love helping people get clarity in their vision. What do you want? Because a lot of times, Rama, people come to me and they say, they start with the business. Like, well, I think I want a UPS store. And I'm like, okay, like, time out. Let's go back. What is the vision of your life? Who cares about what the business is? You don't actually want a UPS store. What you want is more time, more freedom, more money, more control, right? And then they're like, yes. And I'm like, okay, so ditch the business idea for a minute and paint a picture of your vision. Like 3, 5, 10 years from now, what have you built if you become a business owner? Because that kind of clarity with my knowledge and relationships in franchising might lead me to way better businesses than, no offense to the UPS store or whatever brand they bring, than whatever people are thinking. Because people usually think from what they're passionate about, right? I love the smoothie, so I want to own or I love the workout, I want to own that. And this, you're not buying a hobby, you're not buying a passion, you're buying a vehicle that's going to drive your life personally, professionally, and financially to a new place. So what you're going to be passionate about is what the business affords you. And yes, I want you to be passionate about the role that you play in the business, but you certainly shouldn't buy a passion or a hobby because you're going to get stuck in on the ground level because you're going to be so into it. Right. And then no wealth is ever going to be created. You might as well go work for somebody else because all you did was just create a job for yourself.
Yeah,
Makes
awesome.
sense? Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. So if someone is not clear about their goals or anything, so how exactly you will help and what kind of questions you would ask to get more clarity?
Okay, so when we first get together, we start with a pretty basic questionnaire, multiple choice, fill in the blank. Just tell me a little bit about who you are, like activities, hobbies, interests, what you believe your strengths and weaknesses are from your corporate background, what kind of businesses you think you would enjoy, what kind of businesses you think you don't want, which many people will put food there, which I agree with. And then the bottom of the form will calculate your approximate net worth. We are talking about investment. So we have to know approximately how much money you have to put in that would be a comfortable and safe level of investment. And I know your audience are accredited investors. You don't have to be an accredited investor to invest in a franchise. There are franchises that are in the 50, 60, $80,000 all-in range. And then there are certainly investments that are 2, 3, 4, 5 million and a million shades of gray in between. So by gathering your finances, I'm going to help guide you and teach you about what your money buys and help you understand what that kind of business would look like, the role that you would play, the time commitment, and all of the things. So you see that level of investment and what kind of return would come from that without making any earnings claims. So to get to your bigger question, so from there, then we talk about, okay, so let's paint that picture of 3 to 5 years. Let's say you become a business owner today. So project out, where do you start? Do you keep your job? Do you leave your job the day that you start? Because there are opportunities in franchising for people to be a semi-active owner, not passive. Okay. A business will never be passive. The business needs you to be the leader of it. Even if you're not in it because you have managers and teams, you're the leader of the manager and the teams, right? You're the
Yeah.
culture builder. You're the one it's the vision, and you're the one that's inspiring everybody to this grander vision. So I want to help people create that vision. So 3 years from now, if you start in it, are you still in it or have you scaled your way out of it? Maybe you have the vision to build wealth through the business, which means multiple locations. And you say in 3 to 5 years, I want to have 3 to 5 locations up and running. Perfect. So when we go out to where you want to be, how you start and where you want to be, then I'm going to back end you in again by reverse engineering the process back to, okay, so these are the types of companies that would help you get started on that journey. It's a
Awesome.
big part of what we do. And a lot of times, Rama, I find people don't really have a vision, which is why I really started to morph into mindset and manifestation coach, because it's biblical. Where there is no vision, the people perish. And oftentimes I think people as adults, we stop dreaming dreams. right? We get up, we have responsibilities, we have families, we have to do the job. And you just start giving away your life to make money so you can, quote, live, not to get all preachy, right? And then you're like, why am I so miserable? Why do I have no joy in my life? Because the joy in your life comes from dreaming and believing in your dreams and growing and expanding as a human. That's why we're here in this physical body, right? As a spirit. So when you come to me, I'm going to remind you who you are, that you're not a physical body, you're a spirit with a physical body. And the spirit is tapped into unlimited potential and unlimited supply. And that's when you're tapped into, that's when you're tapped in. When you're in alignment with all you can be, that's when you're waking up with passion. That's when you're living at your highest potential. And that's what most adults are missing. And even most business owners. That's why I've launched my Manifestation Academy to help people get back to dreaming bigger and really feeling like, even though it doesn't feel like it could be my reality, because reality has shown me something different, when you really understand how creation actually works, if you can believe it, you can achieve it. Yeah, creation doesn't rely on reality. Creation relies on your active imagination.
Awesome, sir. Thank you very much. So in your franchise business, what kind of challenges you faced early stages and how did you overcome?
What kind of challenges did I face?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you know my story, maybe you don't, but I spent 8 years as an average performing franchisee in my company. So I did pretty well as a consultant. I was making about 250,000 a year, but I certainly knew that I was made for more. In my ninth year, I dared to dream from the $1 million dream. So when I thought from the $1 million, Rama, I was like, okay, what would it take for me to really grow $1 million business? And when I started thinking from $1 million, I started to have inspired ideas and I started asking myself better questions that I never asked when I was just waking up and showing up without the dream and without thinking from that vision. In my ninth year, I grew by 350% and I achieved the first seven-figure consulting business. And that was back in 2011. And so since that time, I've been building this legendary life as a franchise consultant. I took that history making year, I turned it into 6 month income, I turned it into 3 month income. I cut my hours in half. I've made $1 million, multi-millions working part-time. So again, this is how I've morphed into mindset and manifestation coach, because when I grew by 350%, it was 2010 to 2011. So the economy never changed. We were still in the gutter. My skill set did not change in that first year. My franchise process that I take people through to invest in a franchise never changed. It's never changed in 23 years. So nothing external to me changed, and yet everything changed, including history and the amount of money that I was earning. It was a lot more fun making $1 million than it was 250. And I never slipped back. So I wasn't efforting and grinding it out and hustling to grow from 250 to a million. I literally found alignment with $1 million me because the work is internal. And when I showed up as this $1 million me, then I started executing with different ideas. And it was the result of those ideas that turned into $1 million in my bank. And so those life lessons have taught me, I learned by doing, Rama. And now I started studying personal development. And so back then, I didn't know it like I know it today, 13 years later. But once I started reading some great personal development books, I was like, yes, that's what I did. That's what I did. And I saw how I aligned to truth and natural laws of success naturally when I started asking myself better questions. So I've literally teach franchisees now how to create your own economy. You're worried about competition. You're thinking from your flesh. You got to get higher and go tap into your unlimited supply, where the supply increases to the demand. So I teach people how to create their own economy. During the pandemic, sure, I had a human moment. I was a little bit worried about what was going to happen for a couple of weeks. But 2020 turned out to be the exact same financial year as 2019. But because of the challenges we had and the growth that I was doing, planting new seeds, 2021 was an epic year. It was another breakthrough year for Kim Daly. So when you're a business owner and you like setbacks, it's all perception, right? And if you're smart, you're going to use that perceived setback as a setup to teach you how to become something greater so that you can rebound and go further. It catapults you even further. And this is what I teach in my academy.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So when you set goals like from 250K to 1 million, or when you face challenges, what kind of questions you would ask yourself?
What kind of coaching do I do with myself?
No, what kind of questions? What questions you ask yourself?
Questions. So it all comes back. The results in our businesses don't come from the actual effort we're putting out into the world. This is a very nuanced conversation, and it might challenge people who are not familiar with mindset work or the science of success. But this is a timeless truth that Albert Einstein said through quantum physics and Jesus of Nazareth said in the Bible. So it's not Kim Daly's words. These are two very credible sources. I'm just the vessel saying it to you today in 2025. But so when you dream a dream, okay, you are thinking from your active imagination, especially if it's a dream that seems the impossible dream. Those are the best dreams, in my opinion, the only dreams worth trading your life for. And you're trading your life for it because you're putting time into it, and time is the only limited resource we actually have here on earth in our body, right? So when you dream this impossible dream and you don't know how you're going to do it, you have to surrender control to your supreme source, who has no problems, only solutions, who knows where the $1 million is when you've been facing 250 for 8 years. All you had to do was stop looking at reality and start looking to your infinite source. So I'm teaching people how to actually dream again and dream impossible dreams. If you know the how, the dream is too small. And Steve Jobs said it. You can never know the how looking forward. So there's a lot of investors who sit on the sideline and they try to put together these pro formas of a business they've never owned, especially in franchising, because there's so much data available based on other franchisees' numbers. And they never get in the game because they can't make the pro forma work. And then they come to Kim Daly and I said, we're not even going to build the pro forma. It's all garbage. I don't want you to face reality. I want you to create reality. You're coming to me, you want passion, you want control, you want to be inspired. You're not going to be inspired by living somebody else's dream. You got to be inspired by living your own dream. So that implies you have to dream again. What's the biggest dream you can dream? Kim, I want to make $1 million and I want to work 20 hours a week. Cool. I've done that. I'm not going to tell you how I did it, but I'm going to inspire you to find your truth of how you can do it. Because when you go into your active imagination and you surrender control of your logic, strategic mind, you will find the inspired idea. That's what happened to me, Rama. I found the inspired idea. I want to make $1 million. I'll reverse engineer it. I'll show you what happened. So I used to think I was a consultant. When I thought from $1 million, I said, okay, how do I go from making 250 to $1 million? I have to help more people buy a franchise. That's my business. If I want to help more people, I have to know more people. So I'm not going to tell you that this is rocket science, Rama, okay?
Yeah.
But sometimes simplicity is overlooked by our egos because our egoic mind wants everything to be a struggle, wants everything to be hard, right? Wow, if you went to Harvard, you must be really smart, right? Like in this quantum field, Harvard means nothing, right? Like it's all an energy share. So when I thought from the $1 million and I started asking myself better questions, how do I get there? I landed on, oh, I'm not actually a consultant for people who want to buy a franchise. I'm a prospector for people who want to talk to me about exploring a franchise. And that one shift changed everything, including history in my bank account, because now I started showing up to play a very different game. And I tell all of my students, you think when you own a business, you have to be perfect at your closing ratios and you're trying to work all of these things on the back end. And I say, let it go. I created the biggest, fattest, sloppiest mess in the back of my business. My closing ratios were 1 out of 8 the first year I made $1 million, right? So you do not have to control everything to get what you want, but you do have to figure out what is the thing that's yours to maximize and control. And in my business, it was prospecting. So when I started to come to work every day to play my little daily game, what am I going to call myself? I want to personally brand my business. My last name is Daly, so that worked out pretty good for me. So I was like, I started coming to work, showing up present. I'm not worried about $1 million I want to build. How do I have to show up today? I just want to find one new person, not who wants to buy a franchise, just somebody who wants to talk to me about owning a franchise. And every day I came to work to play that game, my pipeline went from 10, 12, 15 people looking at franchises to 30, 40, 50 people. I had no skill to manage all of this, but intuitively I knew, don't worry about it. You can worry about that later. Do what's yours to control. And that's how I built $1 million business. So it's an inspired idea that came from thinking from possibility instead of thinking from lack. But this is the way everything in life is created and accomplished. The only reason we get stuck is we're stuck in our own logic, limited, strategic thinking mind, which sometimes is very highly trained by education in the world. But that's not where your greatest inspiration and your greatest realizations are going to come from. You want to create something truly inspiring that gets you out of bed every day, lights your soul on fire. You got to be able to dream the impossible dream where you can't see in your logical mind how it's going to happen. But when you stay focused on it by the law of attraction, what you focus on expands and you will find the inspired ideas.
Awesome. You touched very good points in all different angles. Thank you. So which franchise industries are winning in today's market?
There are thousands of franchises out there, Rama, and anything from pet services, of course, food and retail, which we all know as consumers, senior care, home services, children's services. There's so many different ways to make money. Not one's not better than the other. They're just used by different investors with different goals, with different interests. So I guarantee you, if you come to me and you're like, I'm a multifamily investor, Kim, but I'm looking to put a business cash flowing return in the heart of my portfolio. And I love multifamily investors in home service because if you own property or you're in the real estate industry, even if you have a real estate license, like you're familiar with all that can go wrong, right? Roof damage, like mold and mildew, I don't know, like lawn care, power washing of the outside of the property. And so there's easy alignment. And sometimes if you have a lot of properties, you can even see how you could benefit your own properties by owning a franchise, a handyman franchise, or whatever it is. So there's natural alignment there. But finding the business is my forte, and that's easy. Once we get clear on your goals and why you believe you want a franchise, and you want to be a business owner, this isn't a transaction like I own land, right? So I invest in the land. Other than paying my taxes on it every year, I don't do anything except drive by it and wave at it. We own the land, right? A business is never going to be passive like that. You have to want to be involved. Even if your involvement is part-time, you are the leader. You are the culture bearer. You are the person who inspires your manager and team to a vision. That's the fun part of being an owner. You're going to be on the financials and the strategic growth and all of that, but you're only going to have financials and strategic growth if you're successful at managing a team, right? So that's a lot of times we have to find that leader in us and really birth a leader, because many people that come to me, they've never managed people before. They were an independent contributor in a corporate America. Other times they were a salesperson, but other times they've managed people. But there's definitely a feeling, Rama, of it's hard to find good people. And I always challenge my investors to say, it's hard to find good people if you're trying to find good people. But if you're trying to be the leader who wants to create a job where people love to work for you, I think you're going to be very successful at finding people. People want to work. They want money, so they want to work, but they don't want to work for crappy bosses. They don't want to work in cold, heartless environments. They want to work for somebody who genuinely cares about them. So go be that guy and watch. On my podcast, I interview franchisees because they're the best storytellers in franchising. And we don't talk about the business they're in, we talk about what led them to franchising and how it's changed their life. And there's so many story after story where people will share, like, I've become known as like a great employer in my community. And all of a sudden, I know this person's successful because their heart is in the right place. They look at their first customer as the employee, and they're there to create jobs and to be the best boss these people have ever had. And when you wake up and show up to serve your employee like that, trust me, you'll never have to hire anybody ever again because the people who work for you are going to refer their friends to you.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you again. So you have some passive investing experience also, right? So share me like what's your criteria? How do you find passive investing opportunities?
Okay. So back in 2018, I was calling in some growth into my life. It was probably 2017. I was calling in growth, and I thought the growth would come by expanding my business or buying another business. And along came a gentleman who teaches people about infinite banking. And he asked me to be, like you, a guest on his podcast. So we did a little pre show interview. Well, we just found so much synergy with each other. And I very quickly realized this man knew what was up in terms of wealth building. So I started leaning in. And after the show, I'm like, could we remain friends? And long story short, I ended up asking him to mentor me. I'm like, I know you make a lot more money than I make, and I want to be you one day when I grow up, Jim. So he started mentoring me. I created 2 banks of daily through his infinite banking ideas. And then I started moving the money because this is what he taught me. Wealthy people have velocity of money. They have multiple revenue streams. They don't just run the business, they move the money through passive investments. So my first investments were more relational. Like, if you come to me to buy a franchise, you don't want to go out there and just invest in any franchise. The reason you come to a consultant with 23 years of relationship is because I know these people. I know the scumbags and I know the good people, right? Like, I know who's worth your time, who genuinely cares about you, because not all franchisors are created equal, right? And I'm going to teach you what should feel good and what to look for. That's what I did. Jim had relationships because he's an alternative investor. And I asked him, if I want to go into real estate syndication, where do I go? And he led me down the path. And then at the time, this was again 2018, cryptocurrency was like first, it was like having a wave. So he put me in the mix with his rich friends, and we came together and we built a crypto mining company, and he made it a female owned business by making me the primary owner of the company, which was amazing until by the time it launched, crypto had sunk. So that was a little bit of a sunk cost, but he promises me it's going to come back. So it's going to be a long-term thing. I'm like, okay, you promised a 10X. And that was a little bit of an epic fail up front, but I think long-term it will work itself out. You learn by doing, and you certainly, what I've learned is you have to be willing. Do not invest more money than you can afford to lose. When the interest rates went high, we saw in multifamily who had no experience and who was over leveraged, and they stopped paying dividends. And this year I'm going to have an $80,000 write off because, I gave him 100. He ended up paying me about 20 grand over the last 5 years. And now the whole thing crumbled. We sold it, but there's no more shareholders. You learn. Now I know. Have you ever been in multifamily in a recession? Like, how are you funding this? So that, are you going to be out over your skis? So if the tide does come back in, you're like, we saw who was swimming with their trunks down. So you learn by failing. I've done a little oil and gas. Now I got very lucky in oil and gas. I have a very good partner for oil and gas, but I've heard some horror stories about oil and gas. So you do have to discern. And I think it, just like in franchising, you want to work with an experienced franchise consultant who has deep relationships. I think you need to partner yourself with people who have experience in alternative investing and have those relationships to lend to you. The people that Jim led me to are all solid people. Those investments are solid. The ones that I started to feel out on my own when I thought I knew what I was doing, those are the ones that are a little bit questionable or have already gone belly up. But it's okay. I've never put more money in than I could afford to lose. Nobody really wants to lose, but listen, if you're going to play the game, you're going to lose. You lose money in the stock market every day. You just don't feel it as much as you do here. But it's the same thing, right, Rama?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for
Yeah.
that. So, any personal habits that are helping you to be successful?
The number one personal habit is my mindset, right? So I'm not just a coach who teaches other people. I invest part of my day every single day being on the razor's edge in my mind, right? Whether that's identifying, oh, my brain is very active today and mandating that I sit still in quiet meditation, or if I'm in good peace and flow inside my body, I love journaling to get clarity about the day and the intentions for the day. That's my number one way that I love. I think it helps you, again, create clarity in your mind. So heaven's first law is order. How do we get order? We have to get clarity around what we want and to set intentions around that. That's desire. It's channeling desire, and that's very powerful in your human body. So I own all of my creative power. When things go good, I own it. When things don't go good, I own it. I've learned the universe is nothing but a big shiny mirror. So whatever we get back in our lives, it's just a reflection of what we're giving out. It's a hard truth to come to, but once you come to it, you realize if you're not willing to own it, you can't control it. But when you are willing to own it, right? So whenever I feel like, gosh, where is it? I'm waiting on it. What am I signaling to the universe? Wait, lack somehow? Or do I need to do a little more inner work to really align and believe and live from? When you live from and you express gratitude from an outcome that you haven't yet seen in your 3D reality, gratitude is the signature of completion. It signals wholeness because you wouldn't be saying thank you if it wasn't done. So when you live from gratitude for what you haven't even yet received, you are signaling to the mirror, the universe, thank you. And now you're an open channel to receive. So I'd say the best personal habit anybody could have is really understanding personal development, understanding the laws of achievement. These are natural laws taught by great philosophers as well as scientists. And then really showing up for yourself every day to master them. That's where all, if you really want to wake up and live your wildest dreams, Rama, I could blow your mind. My life feels magical sometimes, even to me, even though I know how I'm doing it, consciously doing it. But to a lot of people around me, my life feels very magical because they think there's magic, there's an element of magic. But there is an element of magic because when you're tapped into unlimited supply, there are no limits. I just manifested a brand new Mercedes for my 18-year-old son, like literally. I thought it on a Friday, and the next day I walked into a Mercedes dealership, and even my head was spinning. It happened so fast. And I started to question, like, why is this happening? Why? And then by Sunday, when it all settled down, I was like, it's because I was detached from the outcome. I had clarity in my mind about what I wanted. I took inspired action from that clarity. And that's how the creative process works. Whenever things aren't coming, it's because we are putting filters or resistance in the field, and that resistance slows down or blocks our goodness from getting to us. So I think the best personal habit you could ever have is learning how the mind and the body work. And that when you know that, you literally hold the secret to life.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Any one book that impacted you personally or business wise, and what way?
Any one person?
Any one book that impacted.
Oh my gosh, 100%. I'm sorry, I didn't understand you. So, the best book, I tell all of my students, okay, if we're going to start working together on mindset, you've got to go to Earl Nightingale, The Strangest Secret. It's the most basic, small book. It's a 25-minute audible on YouTube, totally free. You don't even have to buy it. The Strangest Secret teaches the basics of how our thoughts become things. And if you can read that book and start to buy into how what you think about translates into what you experience, baby, you are on your way to owning your power. I gave it to my kids when they were little. I have 2 teenage boys. They are very well versed in The Strangest Secret. It is a life-changing book. And here's an even better tip than reading it once. Read it over and over and over, because repetition is the mother of skill. Repetition in the conscious mind creates a pattern in your subconscious mind, and your subconscious mind is your center of creation. So I set a timer on my clock for the first day of every month for 1 year, which turned into 2 years. I go to the gym every day, Rama, and I dedicated that day's walk or cardio session the first day of the month to listening to The Strangest Secret. There's a 30-day task in the book. So the reason I set the timer for 30 days was because you start out good, right? And then you forget, you get busy, you fall off track. So then again, at the end of the 30 days, how good did I do? Start over again. Start over again. Start over again. And by repetition of these rich ideas, your life 100% will change.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you for bringing a lot of energy, Kim. Thank you very much. How can listeners can connect with you?
Please go right to my website, The Daily Coach. That's Daly. I'm on all the socials at The Daily Coach, but from thedailycoach.com, you can learn about my consulting services, my mindset coaching. I have over 2,000 videos on YouTube at Kim Daly TV. So you can get to the videos, you can get to my podcast, again, where I interview those inspiring franchisees. So if there's some way that I can help you, one thing we didn't say, Ram, I'll just close with this. So in those 4 years that I was working with Jim to create velocity of my money, I became totally financially free, meaning I have more passive income coming into my home than it cost me to live. So since 2022, I've literally woken up and I've built another business. I have 2 multi-million-dollar businesses that I run totally for fun. So when life gets a little challenging for Kim Daly, I just say to myself, hey, Kim Daly, this is all for fun, girl, because you don't actually have to do anything to pay your bills. And when you get to live from there, this is, again, how the magic just starts to create momentum in your life. And that's what I want for every single person that comes to me. I want to help you know how to build a successful business so you can totally feel unemployable. That's goal number 1. Like, my time is worth more money than anybody could ever offer me in a salary. And I want you to become financially free. If you're already moving your money through alternative investments, that's what you're trying to get to. The franchise can create faster cash flow that provide tax advantages, provide equity for the long term, provide that ownership and control. But then I can also share with you how I started to move the overflow from my business into these passive investments. And that's what set me totally financially free.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you very much again. Thank you.
You're welcome.